at times have been quite popular because they are quite a good place to be investing for tax-effective, approaches to when people have higher incomes and so forth. So they're long-term tax-effective investment structures inside life insurance policies. There's no capital gains tax if you hold them over 10 years, so they are a long-term investment strategy. That's certainly appropriate for the people I'm talking about. Tax paid inside the bond is a company tax rate, so again that 28.5% rate, and it's not declared on your income. So if someone's in that 49% tax rate and they're likely to want to save for the future, this might be something worth considering because it's largely favourable on a tax basis. There's also no contribution caps like there is in super, so there's the ability to get the money into these structures quite effectively. So this is just one of the many strategies we've actually looked at as quite appropriate for people who are trying to accumulate wealth. So again, I'd really stress the importance of getting the word out to people that are going to be under 50 that are affected by this, because they're going to need time to accrue assets. My brother, for example, he runs a cold store or a business on the airport, so he's largely a manual labour environment. He's not really, I doubt he's taking a heap of notice of this. He just happens to have a brother that's a financial advisor. But the reality is he's not likely to be able to continue to pick up 80 kilogram tunas when he's 65, 70 years old. So he's a classic example of someone that's going to need an asset accumulation program outside super between now and when he turns 60, 65, whenever he wants to give it away, so that he can actually afford to retire when his body wants to stop or he is a bit over it. Now, the challenge, as you all know, is that most people in the under 50 bracket are just trying to pay for the mortgages, cover the kids' education, get past today, and hopefully tomorrow takes care of itself. So again, I'm pretty strongly making this message out that we need to get these people thinking about a nice, boring, old-style approach of saving and investing for the long term. And obviously the compounding effects of money over time are really substantial, and it's better to start earlier rather than later because of that effect. So I think it's a timely wake up on the fundamentals of managing money. I don't need to school any of you in that. Your clients of the firm, you're all successful in your own right financially and you know these things, but I think that the point we want to make is getting the message out to the next generation. Managing and reducing non-deductible debt's important, so get rid of that personal debt that Daryl talked about being so high. Regular savings programs is obviously just an essential thing, I think, for people going forward. Compounding effect and using appropriate structures, because superannuation may not be the best place to hide money for tax purposes, because people may not be able to get their hands on it till later in life. They may need to look at trusts, the bonds that I talked about before, company structures, these kind of things. So there's a bit of work to do. And I was, like I said before, gearing by borrowing some money to get some tax offsets may be appropriate, to get some asset accumulation on the way. With low interest rates at the moment, and as Daryl pointed out, there doesn't seem to be a big trend perhaps towards a recovery in interest rates in a hurry. It's not a terrible time to be considering these things anyway. Seniors Health Card, this is another area that took a lot of attention, we think, in the budget. So basically, at the moment, to be eligible, a person must have adjusted taxable income of $50,000 if you're single, or $80,000 if you're couple combined, and $100,000 for couples that are separated by illness or respite care. So the proposed changes are annual indexation of the income thresholds that I just showed you by CPI from September this year, and account-based pensions that are subject to deeming will be included in the income test from 1st of January 2015. For those already in the Centrelink system as far as healthcare and have their pension locked in already, that they're largely going to be unaffected by this, but the future pensions will be needed to be looked at. So it may be necessary for some people to commence pensions prior to 1st of January next year, but it's very specific to criteria we need to look at, so we'll have to look at everybody's case-by-case scenario. But certainly this is an impact because it does mean that there's a bunch of income that previously wasn't being counted suddenly being included in this test. The proposed changes also include holders of the healthcare will cease to receive the senior supplement beyond June this year, and also that holders will continue to receive the clean energy supplement. So some good news and bad news amongst those two. So again, the strategy implications are really considering if an account-based pension should be commenced. So again, eligibility is a real issue because there's only a really small window of opportunity for people if they're actually eligible for this. and is the right fund for you. Because people that need to get in the right fund to lock in these rules that before the deeming implications start next year, getting in the right fund and not going, oh, I'm in the right fund now, but I might need to change later. That's not going to cut it, because when you roll over your fund to a new one, you basically start from scratch and the grandfathering of the rules goes away. When I say grandfathering, by the way, that just means that the old rules that you were under when you commenced that pension are on going forward, and it's only for new pensions started that will affect. So again, we're not going through too much of the detail here because it is very specific to case by case, but those affected that our clients will largely be looking at. If you have friends that are around that 65-year-old age where they're commencing pensions or potentially thinking about commencing pensions, this may be something that you'd like to raise with them and have them have a chat to us or someone that's going to help them with this, because there could be a little window of opportunity they're going to miss between now and the end of the year. So people you know that may be affected by this, it's worth getting them aware of it, because life will pass by, the year will be over, and some people just wouldn't have got organised. So there's no way to unwind that clock. We haven't found anything in the budget about taxing puppies, but it's probably the only sector that hasn't been, but there you go. There's a lot of text in this, I needed something to break it up. So, guaranteed super contributions, the rate was announced that would be increased to 9.25 up to 9.5 from 1 July. That's currently legislated, that's not going to change. What was going to happen though, it was slowly going to be ratcheted up to the 12% over the following years. It's now going to be frozen until 30 June of 2018, so just a freezing on that indexation, increasing that contribution rate from employers. So, and then after June of 2018, it will continue to rise by 0.5% until it reaches 12 by 1st of July 2022. So it's just a delaying of that phasing out, and again, that's to try and lighten the burden on companies. It seems to try and ensure that companies are in the best position to help recover the economy. Medicare, the government will pause indexation of the Medicare levy surcharge and the health insurance rebate for income thresholds for 3 years, and there will also be no increase to the Medicare levy low income thresholds for individuals or for the Medicare low income phase-in threshold for families. So there's a little bit of shelter there, but largely the pausing of the indexation is a small factor for some people. So we've got a lot more content on some of these extra bits in the papers we've handed you out. So there will be a little more detail you can look through there. I'm really just covering some of the high-level points of these. In addition, the threshold for couples with no children will be increased to $34,367, so up marginally, and the additional amount of the threshold for each dependent child or student will also be increased to $3,156, slightly up from the previous rate. And I will remind you also that the Medicare levy is increasing to 2% from 1 July, and that's to provide funding for Disability Care Australia, and low-income tax offsets will be provided relief. So there's some shelter there for low-income earners, but largely this is a continued impact. Some offsets that I also want to mention is the dependent spouse tax offset is going to be abolished from July. In addition, the mature age worker tax offset and the pensioner education supplement were no longer available as well, and that will be from 1st January next year. So just some of the offsets that are being phased out, so that is an impact to some people. Although I've never actually met someone that's used the pensioner education supplement, but the opportunity's gone anyway. In addition to the ones I've talked about, the GP visits, that's raised a lot of attention. Everybody's worried about the big impact of this. So from July 2015, $7 charge for each currently bulk bill service. There's a bit of work to do on this, I think, for the government, and there's a lot of debate about it, and we'll see if it actually gets through in the form that they've talked about. But it will be capped at 10 services per calendar year for concessional patients and children under 16. So there is some relief being proposed for people that are perhaps on lower incomes and affected by this. But it seems like there's a lot of details that we're missing from this particular proposal that are implicated by it. So we'll be watching to see what the total outcome of this will be. Job seekers from January next year, new applicants for New Start Allowance and the Youth Allowance who are under age 30 will have to serve a waiting period of 6 months, and that will be reduced by 1 month for every year of paid employment they've had previously. So if someone worked for 6 years, then they effectively eliminated that 6 months. But this is really to try and encourage people to get back in the workforce. So it won't be completely left out in the dark because they will still receive support, just not these particular income streams. Defence Force retirement benefits and military superannuation schemes. Members aged 55 and over will have their superannuation benefits indexed by the better of CPI and the pensioner benefit beneficiary living cost index. It's a lot of words late night. So it's basically they're going to have this indexation by the higher of those two. In addition, the mining tax, it's had a little bit of attention, but that will be axed and retrospectively. So as Daryl pointed out, the impact of that actually isn't being as heavy in tax taking anyway. So it's but that's as they flag, they're unwinding that. So some other impacts, and again, they're in your handouts in a lot more detail. In addition, as Daryl pointed out, we're going to have some more content in the slides on the website. So disability support pensions are being affected. Family tax benefit A and B, there's some changes to that affect some people. The commencement of the paid parental leave scheme that we talked about, and cancelling of the housing help for seniors. So again, some expanded detail in your papers. We're recording this and we're going to be slicing it up into sections and put it on the website. So for people that didn't quite memorise everything Daryl and I said, you'll be able to review some of that. And again, for people that weren't able to attend, they'll get access to it as well. So you're welcome to stick around and actually have another drink or some food. But we're happy to take some questions, and Daryl might want to come up and help me out with that since it's getting late. My horse is starting to go. Nothing on the puppies? Thank you.